Scrolling through the online stories, you may come across a time slip one, where a person falls into a parallel universe or another place altogether. They seem interesting, but you honestly don't believe them. You also never think that something like that would ever happen to you. But for me, it actually did. It was just starting to get dark. My roommate Ashley was loading up her suitcase in the back of my car. We live in Detroit, Michigan, and we were taking a trip to see my parents in Dayton, Ohio. Since she had to work all day, we decided to leave in the evening. Driving at night didn't bother me. Plus, it was only a bit over 3 hours to get there, nothing I couldn't handle. We got into my car, and I told Ashley I needed to call my parents to let them know we were on our way. I figured they were probably getting around for bed, so when the answering machine picked up, I left a message. "Hey, it's Lily. It's just about 8:30 and we're ready to hit the road. See you in a few hours." I put my phone in the cup holder and began driving. We got on I-75. Ashley told me since we would be on there for a while, she would try and get some sleep. It wasn't long before I heard her lightly snoring. About an hour had passed, and I had become exhausted. It felt like I had been driving for hours. My eyelids kept slowly closing, and I would jerk when they shut. I rolled my window down, hoping that the fresh air would wake me up. I noticed a sign for a 24-hour gas station at the next exit, and I thought it would be a great idea to take a break. I woke Ashley up and told her what we were going to be doing. I drove off the exit ramp and figured that the gas station would be right there, but it wasn't. We were met by a T and a sign pointing to the left 2 miles for the gas station. "Lily, do you think that is a good idea? You don't even know where we could end up. What if we got lost?" I explained to Ashley that there was only 2 miles that we had to drive. We could turn back around at any point. As we drove, I found it strange that there would be a sign on the interstate for the gas station 2 miles away, but I shrugged it off. When we reached the gas station, I saw a diner across the road. Food sounded really good right about then, but I noticed that the closed sign was blinking. When we got out of the car, I had a strange feeling wash over me. I couldn't explain it, just something felt off. We headed in and walked around. I grabbed some snacks and a cup of coffee. Ashley came over and told me she couldn't find the restroom. I told her we would pay for our stuff and then asked the cashier where it was. Maybe they have an employee one that we could use. As we walked up to the register, we were met by a tall, skinny man. His face was eerie. He had cold, dark eyes that felt like they looked right into your soul. As Ashley grabbed my arm, I looked nervously at her. The man asked if we needed anything else. I told him that we couldn't find the restroom. He then leaned over and tossed a piece of wood with a key attached to it onto the counter. He told us it was out back. We paid, and as we were walking out, I heard him mumble something at us. "What was that?" I asked him. "Oh, don't forget to lock it," he said, and then laughed. We rushed outside and into the restroom. While I was waiting on Ashley, I saw there was writing on the wall. I walked up to it and read it out loud. "From now till then and back again, for time is only paper thin." I thought, whatever that means. Once Ashley was done, we locked the door and went back inside. The man was just standing there grinning at us. It was beyond creepy. I hurried up and laid the key down and quickly walked to the car. When we got inside the car, Ashley told me she had a really bad feeling. I explained everything was fine now. We were just about to pull out of the parking lot when I noticed that the diner was gone. I hurried up and put the car in park, and I sat back in my seat. I was so confused. Ashley asked me what was wrong. I told her There was a diner there, but now there's not. I remember because I was hungry. She said, maybe you were just so tired that you thought you saw a diner. I nodded and put the car in drive and headed back towards the interstate. As we were driving, a thick fog started to roll in, making it hard to see, but I kept driving. I glanced over at the clock on the radio. It was now 10 p.m. We had to have missed the road to the interstate. We should have seen it by now. We've been driving for a while now. I asked Ashley if she had seen it, but she said no. She put her hands up to her head. I told you it was a bad idea. I knew we shouldn't have went this way because you didn't know where you were going, and I knew we'd end up lost, she said. At this point, I didn't even know what to tell her, to try and calm her down. I didn't even know what to do. Should I turn around? Should I keep driving? As soon as I thought that, I saw some lights up through the fog. And before I knew it, the fog had lifted. But then the car radio started acting really weird. There was static and voices that you couldn't really make out. Then the lights in the car started flashing. I hurried up and pulled the car over, and we began freaking out. Even when I turned the car off, everything was still going haywire. I didn't know what to do, so I just started pushing buttons, but nothing was helping. The lights kept flashing, the radio kept squealing. I finally got mad and just decided to turn the car on. Starting the car seemed to have fixed the problem. The lights quit flashing, but the radio quit working altogether. All there was on it was the time. I told Ashley that we would head towards the lights. I bet it was a small town somewhere. Maybe we could get a map and figure out where we are. She didn't say anything. She just looked out the window. I couldn't blame her for feeling the way she did. I was scared and mad at myself too. As we approached the town, again with the weird feeling, even Ashley felt it because she looked over at me and said that she had a bad feeling again. Nothing in this town looked right. It was like we fell back in time somewhere. The cars were different. There was muscle cars parked along the side of the street. I noticed there was a gas station, but the last gas station we were at creeped me out so bad that I didn't feel like going to another one. I told Ashley we would look for a motel or something. Surely someone in there has a map. There was a little motel off to the side of the street. We pull in, get out of the car, and as we opened the door, a little doorbell rang. We walked up to the desk, and nobody was there. It was odd inside, again feeling like we were in a time warp or something. The furniture was orange-colored, and the walls had wood paneling on it. There was curtains in the window with these weird yellow flowers with a green background to it. When I rang the bell, a young girl came around the corner. She had bell-bottom pants, platform shoes, and a crop top with a rainbow on it. Ashley and I looked at each other strangely, but who are we to judge? The girl asked if we were looking to rent a room for the night. We told her no, that we think we got lost and wanted to know if they had a map that we could use. She pointed over to the stand. Those are all the maps we have. If you need anything else, just let me know, she said. I went over to the stand and rifled through the maps, but I was really confused. The girl must have noticed it because she came over. Is there something wrong? I looked at her and said, these are the only maps you have? She said, yeah. I told her, these are all for Wyoming. She's like, well, what other kind of maps do you think we would have? I looked over at Ashley, and then she came over. Ashley asked her, why would you have maps for Wyoming? We should be in Ohio by now. The girl laughed. Ohio? Wow, you must be lost. She then picked up a map and walked over to the desk. We followed her over. I can point you out where we are if you need. I nodded to her, and then when I looked up, there was a calendar there. I looked over at it, and then I nudged Ashley and pointed to it. Ashley laughed. Don't you think it's time for you to change your calendar by now? You should have changed it like 40 years ago. The girl looked confused, and she looked up at the calendar and then at us. What do you mean I should change the calendar? Ashley laughed. Well, it says 1975. And the girl looked at us. Yeah, and? I immediately threw my hands up and backed off. You gotta be kidding me. This has to be some kind of joke. There's no way it's 1975 and that we're in Wyoming. Come on, it's 2015 and we should be in Ohio by now, not Wyoming. There's no way we could have drove that fast in that amount of time and end up in Wyoming where we weren't even headed that way. The girl picked up the phone. You guys are really starting to creep me out and scare me. If you don't leave, I'm going to call the cops because I don't know what's going on here. Ashley backed up towards me. I told the girl, all right, we're going. Just tell us how to get to the interstate. She turned and pointed to the left. The way we came? We hurried up, got in the car, and drove off back the way we came. Before long, we were in the middle of nowhere again. But then something strange happened. The road we were on turned to a dirt road. The car began bouncing all over the place, and Ashley had her knees pulled up to her chest. She was freaking out, and so was I. I don't understand what is going on, I said. How did we end up on a back road? We were driving straight. We didn't turn off anywhere. I saw up ahead there was a barn with the lights on. I slowed my car, and as we were driving past, I noticed that the lights were candle lights, and there were people standing out and buggies parked around. What is going on? Ashley said. I shook my head and I said, I don't know, but we're getting out of here. This is crazy. We kept driving, still on an old dirt road. Up ahead, we noticed that there was fog. Not this fog again. As we drive through it, the car started making the same sounds as it did before. The radio was blaring, sounds we didn't understand, screeching. The lights were flashing in the car again. We just kept driving and tried to ignore it. And soon, we were out from the fog. Then, when I thought things couldn't get any stranger, there was a sign saying, "You are now leaving Wyoming." I looked over at Ashley, and she looked at me. Her face had fear written all over it. I asked her, how could we end up in Wyoming? Ashley shook her head at me. She didn't know. She thought I must have made a turn, but I told her no, I didn't. I didn't know what to do at this point. I just told Ashley, I'm going to keep driving because I don't know what else to do. She just looked out the window again. I didn't know what to tell her, or even myself. And how do you explain what we saw at that motel? The 1975 calendar, the girl, just the town altogether? I couldn't wrap my head around it. We probably drove for another half hour. And before I knew it, I looked up and saw lights up ahead. Another town. I was half scared to even know what was going to be here. What time are we going to be in this time? Because that barn with the buggies outside looked like something from the 1800s. As we approached the light, I froze in fear. I didn't even know what to say or do. I nudged Ashley. Look what's up ahead. It's that same gas station, and there's that diner with the closing sign blinking. I slowed my car down. Ashley sat up and was looking really intently. Then a cold feeling washed down my spine and all the hair on my neck stood up. You would think that would be the creepiest thing, but it wasn't. There was that man, the cashier. He was standing by the edge of the road. As we drove past, he waved and smiled at us. I looked over at Ashley and chills ran down my spine and I had goosebumps all over me. We floored it and kept driving and driving. And before you knew it, we found the sign for the interstate and we turned on it. We were back on I-75, headed towards Dayton. To this day, we have no idea what happened, how we ended up in Wyoming, and in a matter of half an hour, 45 minutes, we end up back in Michigan. We can't explain that motel, the girl, the 1975 calendar, nor can we explain the old dirt road with the barn lit by candlelights and the buggies outside. I do know, though, that anytime I drive home now, I do not stop at that gas station. I don't even get off that exit. I just keep driving. Over time, I've wondered about this. My mind flashes back to that skinny man with the cold, dark eyes and the writing on the bathroom wall. What did it say again? From now till then and back again, for time is only paper thin. Thanks, everyone. This is Alaina Rivers. I hope you enjoyed my short story. I love this whole theory about time slips. I don't know why I find it interesting, but I hope this fictional story interested you and you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks again, everyone.